there is a kind of loneliness that has nothing to do with being alone. It is the feeling of being in a room full of people and still feeling like nobody quite gets you. Not because you are arrogant, not because you think you are better than everyone, but because your brain works in a way that is just slightly different. And for most of your life, nobody explained why. Today, that changes, because psychology has quietly been studying this for decades. And what researchers found is not what most people expect. High intelligence does not look like the movies. It does not look like a genius writing equations on a whiteboard. It looks like everyday habits, quiet patterns, small behaviors that most people misread completely. And once you understand them, you will never look at yourself or the people around you the same way again. Imagine this. A kid sits in class. The teacher asks a simple question. Every other student raises their hand immediately. But this kid just sits there, quiet, staring at the desk. The teacher thinks he is bored, maybe distracted, maybe not paying attention. But here is what is actually happening inside that kid's head. He heard the question. He thought of an answer in 2 seconds. But then his brain kept going, wait. But what if the question means something else? What if there is a different angle here? What if the obvious answer is actually wrong? By the time he decided on his response, teacher had already moved on. That kid was not slow. That kid's brain was running faster than the room could keep up with. And that small moment, that quiet pause while everyone else rushed forward, is one of the most misunderstood signs of a highly intelligent mind. This is what high IQ actually looks like in real life. The first thing psychology tells us is that highly intelligent people spend a lot of time alone, and not because they are antisocial or cold. Think about someone you know who always seems to need space, who recharges in silence, who sometimes disappears into their own head mid-conversation. Most people assume that person is shy, or distant, or just not interested. But research from the London School of Economics found something surprising. People with higher intelligence actually report feeling less satisfied from frequent social interaction. Not because they dislike people, but because their brain is already running complex conversations inside. Social noise can feel like interference. Their mind needs quiet the way a computer needs processing power. Too much input at once slows everything down. Solitude is not emptiness for them, it is fuel. The second pattern is constant curiosity. And this one goes deeper than most people realize. It is not just curiosity about big things. It is curiosity about everything. Why does that person always sit in the same seat? Why do people laugh nervously when they are uncomfortable? Why does this system work this way when a simpler version would do the job? The highly intelligent brain cannot turn off the question engine. It is always searching for patterns, always looking for the thing underneath the thing. And here is the interesting part. This same curiosity that makes them fascinating to talk to also makes them exhausting to live inside of, because the questions never stop. And some questions do not have answers. And a brain that needs answers, sitting with questions that have none, that is a very specific kind of restlessness. Now here is something that will surprise you. Highly intelligent people are often the first to say, I do not know. This sounds counterintuitive. Shouldn't the smartest person in the room have the most answers? But psychology explains this through something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. People with limited knowledge tend to overestimate what they know. They are confident because they cannot see how much they are missing. But people with high intelligence can see the complexity. They understand how many variables exist, how many ways something can be misunderstood, how much is still unknown, so they hold their opinions loosely. They update their beliefs when new information arrives. They say I was wrong without feeling like their identity is collapsing. That is not weakness. That is one of the rarest cognitive abilities a human brain can develop. If this kind of content connects with you, the psychology behind how people think and why, consider subscribing. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and there is a lot more coming that you do not want to miss. Let's talk about something most people get completely wrong about intelligent minds. Overthinking. Everyone treats overthinking like a flaw, a bad habit, something to fix. But here is what is actually happening neurologically. An analytical brain does not have a simple off switch. The same cognitive machinery that solves complex problems keeps running even when the problem is small. A conversation from 3 days ago, a decision that already happened, a comment someone made that probably meant nothing. The brain is not being dramatic. It is doing what it always does, looking for patterns, testing scenarios, preparing for outcomes. The exhausting part is that it cannot always tell the difference between a problem worth solving and one that isn't. So it processes everything, at full power, all the time. Living inside a highly intelligent mind is not always a gift. Sometimes it feels more like an engine that never shuts off. Here is one more pattern that psychology keeps coming back to. Highly intelligent people observe before they speak. In a conversation, most people are already forming their response while the other person is still talking. They are half listening, half preparing. But someone with a highly active mind does something different. They watch first. They read the emotional tone. They notice the small things, the pause before an answer, the word someone chose instead of another word, the thing that was not said. By the time they respond, they have already processed 3 layers of the conversation that most people never noticed. This is why they sometimes seem quiet in group settings. They are not disengaged. They are collecting information before they decide what to do with it. And sometimes what they decide is that most of the conversation does not need their input at all. There is one final thing about highly intelligent people that psychology keeps quietly pointing to. They feel things deeply, not always visibly, not always dramatically. But underneath the calm exterior and the logical thinking, there is usually a very intense emotional world. Because intelligence does not just apply to facts and problems, it applies to everything, including feelings, including relationships, including the weight of understanding how complicated human beings really are. They feel the contradiction of things, the sadness inside happy moments, the beauty inside difficult ones. They see too much to stay on the surface of anything, and sometimes that depth is a gift. It gives them empathy that runs very deep, creativity that comes from unexpected places, a way of seeing in the world that feels almost painfully honest. But sometimes that depth is its own kind of burden, because when you feel everything at full intensity, the world can be a very loud place to exist in. Here is what I want to leave you with. Intelligence is not about having all the answers. It is not about being the loudest person in the room, or the most confident, or the quickest to respond. It is about a brain that cannot stop asking questions, that feels most alive in silence, that holds complexity without needing to simplify it, that keeps updating, keeps questioning, keeps looking for the thing underneath the surface. If any of this felt familiar, if you recognized yourself in that kid sitting quietly while everyone else raised their hand, then maybe the way your brain works is not a problem to fix. Maybe it never was. If this video made you think about yourself differently, leave a comment below. I read every single one. And if you want more psychology content like this, subscribing takes 2 seconds, and it means more than you know. See you in the next one.